Pete Abraham covers the Boston Red Sox for the Boston Globe, joining us back here on FT. Give him a follow at Pete Abe to see what the Red Sox are up to. Pete, happy Friday to you. The guys are laughing at my joke, so do you want to try and bring us down about the Red Sox and what you think expectations are for them this offseason? Do you think we'll see those reports that come in from people going, Red Sox were in on so-and-so, or will they actually win some big-name players?
That's the big question, and I think the good thing is they haven't come up with any stupid catchphrases about what they're going to do this year. They managed to avoid that so far. But talking to Craig Breslow with San Antonio the last couple of days and talking to some agents there, the Red Sox do seem very serious about wanting to improve the team finally and to use whatever methods at their disposal that they have, trading some of their prospects, including perhaps guys out of their big four, and spending the money on free agents. They understand they have a weird team. They have too many right-handed hitters. They don't have any left-handed pitchers. They have too many left-handed hitters, I should say, and they don't have any left-handed pitchers. It's a weird mix that they need to figure out how to bring it into balance, and I think they have the ways that they can do it.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Listen, I talked to Alex Cora, and he said the same thing. Even their prospects are left-handed hitters, right?
Yeah.
They need. You're in Fenway Park. You have the Green Monster. Listen, right-handed hitters are where the power's at, right? I know they had David Ortiz, but you also had Manny. You also had, Mike Lowell when they won. You had Euclid. You had all these right-handed hitters that could also hit the ball out of the park to left field. So I agree with you. They need to find right-handed power somewhere. But before we dig into this whole thing, I think it's your right shoulder. Let me see, right shoulder, left shoulder. You have a bobblehead of George Costanza. You are going to lose your Red Sox fan card because he worked for the Yankees. So when people see that, they're going to say, what is Pete doing having a Yankee employee over his shoulder?
Oh, here's what I'm doing. So the Red Sox, for some reason, the Yankees had a bobblehead day when the Red Sox are in town, which doesn't speak very well to where the Red Sox are, I guess. And it was a George Costanza traveling secretary bobblehead. I get to the park that day. I get off the subway. I'm walking to the press gate. There's like 500 people lined up to make sure they got this bobblehead. So they gave it out in the press box. I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, give me one. It's probably going to be worth something on eBay. So I took it. Hell yeah.
There. Yeah. I like that. And I think it's a great piece. It fits in well. He's got a bat in his hands.
It was when he taught Jeter and them how to hit.
Yeah. It's all about
That's
physics.
Great. I love that.
Right. It's all about physics.
All right, I'll jump in because I do have a follow-up to something that you said to the first question. Do you really think they would trade one of their big four prospects? And isn't this something that a team doesn't need to do when they can just acquire the problems that they need to solve?
Well, you guys were talking about that before. Every great prospect doesn't turn into a great major league player.
True.
And when the Red Sox traded for Chris Sale, it was a 4-player package. It was highlighted by Yoan Moncada, who's basically a career underachiever that hasn't done what he was supposed to do. Michael Kopech was supposed to be an ace starter. He's a very good reliever, but he's not an ace starter. And the other two guys never ended up in the big leagues. So why would you not make a similar trade with the White Sox if you could to get Garrett Crochet and give up somebody, figure out which of those guys. They've got 6 guys in the Baseball America top 100, 6. They're all position players. They have redundancy at shortstop. They have some redundancy in the outfield. Figure out the guy that you think is surely going to be the best of the bunch and keep him, and then trade the other guys to get pieces that you need. I mean, Dave Dombrowski did a really good job of that when he was here, and they haven't done a good job of that since.
Wait, are we talking about the Orioles or are we talking about the Red Sox here? Have a redundancy
of prospects
at positions, but we don't want to get rid of them because we need 5 shortstops in the future and 6 third basemen and 8 left fielders. I don't understand that. The hoarding of prospects has gone to a whole new level. I played with Craig Breslow. Craig, please change that and go get people you need.
And it seems like there's way too much focus on, we've got this many top 100 prospects, or we've got this many guys who are all-stars in the minor leagues. The focus is winning playoff games in the big leagues. And if there's a ways to build your team that are more than just free agency. Now, I think the Red Sox need to do both. They need to invest in some free agents. There's some guys out there that would clearly fit their needs, but they also need to use some of these prospects and understand that, the idea is to win the World Series, not to win, awards for how good you are at player development.
Wouldn't that be the superpower for Craig Breslow? When you hire a GM that has played in the big leagues as long as he did, isn't that so is he mandated to hamstring himself to not trade these guys? Or is it is it something that's coming down the line right now that, he's going to trade these guys and he's going to kind of model almost after the Rangers, where Chris Young came in and he was like, I played, this is how we're going to build this team. We're going to build it a certain way, not the way that the current front office in baseball builds teams.
Yeah, I don't know that Craig has any mandates necessarily, but he has, I think, trying to change things from the previous administration under Chaim Bloom, where they were clearly, I think they put way too much emphasis on hoarding prospects and, you know, the value of those guys, that they could never touch them, and to their detriment, really, because the Red Sox are 2 games under 500 the last 5 years. 5 years. And it's the Red Sox. I mean, they've got to get to a point where they can be better than that. And frankly, you know, like you guys were talking about, you know, you can't have 6 shortstops and 7 outfielders and all of these guys. At some point, one of those players' best value to the Red Sox is to trade him.
So let me ask you, because we're getting this from some of our fans in the chat right now, what do you think is the ideal strategy on the pitching side of things, specifically the starting pitching? So I know they're going to wait to see if Pivetta takes that qualifying offer, but even aside from that, like, who's the big boy that you see them getting? I know you mentioned Crochet, but anyone else like free agency wise too, like a Corbin Burns, you think in play, or a Max Fried?
Max Fried would make a lot of sense because they need a lefty, and
Right.
their rotation has been very right-handed for a couple of years now. I don't know that they'd want to spend the money that it would take to land a major free agent starter. John Henry has said he's against the idea of spending money on pitchers who are older than 30 and investing in those big contracts, and there is some sense behind that. I do think they could trade for a guy like Crochet and then use free agency. Like a guy like Teoscar Hernandez would make tremendous sense for the Red Sox. They need right-handed power. They need a clubhouse presence. He's a perfect fit at Fenway Park. A guy like Tanner Scott would make a lot of sense for the Red Sox. They need a lefty reliever. They need somebody with strikeout stuff. And Liam Hendricks is theoretically their closer, but he hasn't pitched in a year and a half. So you can't necessarily walk into the season saying, well, we're all set with closer. If you have both Liam Hendricks and Tanner Scott, then you have a really good bullpen. I think a guy like that will be a test case for the Red Sox if they're willing to go to what it's going to take to sign him in free agency, because he makes a tremendous amount of sense for them.
Okay, let me ask. This is the one thing that drives me crazy about early in the postseason or early in the off season, right? The hot stove. Every team checks in on every player. So when you hear from certain people that, hey, the Red Sox checked in on Teoscar Hernandez, and they checked in on Juan Soto, and they checked in on this person and this player, and they checked in on Max Fried, guess what? Every team does their due diligence and calls an agent of the top players and says, hey, what are you thinking? So can we stop that? Like, I don't want to hear the rumors until there's actually an offer on the table. And by the way, why the heck would the Red Sox not want to go get Juan Soto? I know he's left-handed, but he's got power to left center. He would fit beautifully in there in the middle of their order. Him and Devers hitting back-to-back. Wow, are you kidding me? Plus, you throw in Casas, you throw in some of the other guys, Jared Duran. Yes, they're left-hand heavy. I get it. But still, like, you have the money, John Henry. But trust me, Liverpool makes a lot of money. Spend some of your Liverpool money on the Red Sox, please.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying the same thing Red Sox fans have been saying for the last couple of years, AJ, and it's been frustrating because they do seem to have the base of talent where if you added some guys, you talked about adding somebody with Devers, that they could be a good team again very quickly. But for whatever reason, and I don't think it's, Red Sox fans are trying to make it sound like, they just don't want to spend. I don't think it's that they don't want to spend. I just think they've underestimated what it would take to get certain players, and they get beat out by other teams.
What about my last one is Pivetta? Do you think that he ends up taking the qualifying offer, or do you think he should take that? I mean, you've seen him more than we have. I've seen many of his starts, but I feel like other teams might think they can unlock something, even though he was part of a good group just now that was helping others do just that.
Yeah, I find that whole thing interesting. He made $7 million last year, and now he's got a chance to make 21. So part of me says, well, how can you walk away from that? That's, you're going to get 3 times more than what you got paid the previous year. But I've also heard when I was in San Antonio that there are teams out there that see him as a guy that they would pay $60 million to and sign him to a longer-term contract. So his agents really got to do some work and figure out if that market is there for Pivetta. I mean, what's his ceiling? I think it's maybe like a number 3 starter, but it's hard to find starters. And this is a guy who throws a lot of strikes. He hasn't been as good as I think he could be. He fades in the second half sometimes. There's some secondary pitches that he needs to work on, but he has a good fastball and he throws strikes. And I'm sure there are teams out there that have looked at his stuff, and everybody talks about stuff more than performance these days, but have looked at his stuff and said, this is a guy that we can turn into something more than what he already is. So to me, boy, I don't know how he walks away for $21 million after making $7 million, but I bet you he ends up in the market.
Pete, before we let you go, all right, I want a prediction from you for Red Sox Nation out there. Who do they sign? Give me 3 guys that they legitimately are going to try and sign.
Teoscar Hernandez, Tanner Scott, and I think they'll end up with a starter, not necessarily Max Fried or one of the bigger guys, but I think they'll end up with a starter because I think they're going to trade from what they have. I think they're going to try to change their mix and trade a righty to get a lefty or just change up what they have now and create a better balance. But I think, to me, Teoscar Hernandez, that's the guy Alex Cora wanted last year. They didn't get him. He's back on the market this year. I think he's the guy they're going to probably put a lot of focus into.
Well, if they sign those two and they get a starter, they're back kind of in the mix, I feel like, in the AL East, right?
They should be. I mean, being around the Dodgers in the World Series, there were a couple of guys who had a great quote. They said, Ohtani is the MVP of the league, and Teoscar Hernandez was the MVP of their team because of what he did in the clubhouse, the way he balanced their lineup, the things that he did for younger players. That's the kind of guy the Red Sox need. That's without a doubt the kind of personality and the kind of player that they need.
Yeah, his price went up. They should have went after him last year with a legit multi-year offer. I mean, his agent was like I loved it, very transparent on social media about the whole situation and how he wasn't getting the big multi-year offers like he thought he should. And that ended up being really helpful for the Dodgers to win a World Series. So I like it.
And the Red Sox were one of those teams that they didn't come up enough to get him.
No, they were in on Teoscar Hernandez.
Full throttle. Put the throttle down. Put the hammer down.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. The in on it. Yeah, AJ's right. When you get to this part in the offseason, I mean, I'll do it every day. Contenders like player X at foul territory. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, we got to get
my favorite one was the Rays have checked in on Juan Soto. Have they checked in on him owning 50% of the team? Like, what are they checking in on? Like, is he going to
funny.
He does roofing. And they need a roof.
Yeah. Hey, maybe the Rays can play in JetBlue. Maybe the Rays can play in JetBlue the next 3 years down in Fort Myers, and then that way when they go to Fenway, it's like they're at home.
I know people that would be very bothered about the traffic all year for that. Yeah. But anyway, it's funny you mentioned that though, Pete. We did have Mark Topkin on for the ballpark part, but also because the Soto rumors floated out there, we're like, all right, let's have fun and squash this and just say that was cute. And there's really 2.5 teams in on Soto. But anyway, Pete, awesome having you on. Good to see you. Enjoy the offseason. I'm sure we'll have you back when they do actually land someone.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.